All right, so I'm gonna call this y just to be consistent with x and y always, okay? All right, so in this case, again, I'm gonna start with the inside. Now, okay, so I always draw my triangles like this, oriented this way. This is the angle theta. The tangent is 3/8. That means the vertical over the horizontal is 3/8. Okay, and I'm going to call this r just to be consistent. So let's just find r for a minute. R squared is equal to 8 squared plus 3 squared. So r is equal to root 73. Yes? Okay, now I want the sine of this angle. Well, that's going to be y over r, right? Y is the vertical over the radius. 3 over root 73, which is 3 root 73 over 73. Okay, and that's 0.35. Or 0.35. It says to the nearest hundredth. Okay. All right. 0.35. Yeah. So, okay, so here we have cosine and arc cosine. What do they do to each other? They cancel each other out. So it would just be negative root 2 over 2. The only thing you have to watch out for is this in the proper domain? What's the domain of the arc cosine? No, the domain. The domain is between -1 and 1. The domain. Look, remember here I said if you have arc sine of something, this number is part of the domain. The domain is between -1 and 1. So this is in the proper domain. So the answer is just negative root 2 over 2. Nothing else. Okay, this one. Okay, let me sketch this so you see what's happening. It's secant and cosine. You may or may not see it. So look, if the cosine is root 3 over 2, okay, if the cosine of, okay, I have an angle. The cosine of it is this. What would the secant be? The opposite. So you don't even, okay, so we don't even mess with drawing anything. All right? So if the cosine of theta is negative root 3 over 2, then the secant of theta would just be negative 2 over root 3, negative 2 root 3 over 3. All right? Okay, here, find the measure of theta. So we are going to use our calculator on this. Theta is going to be the inverse cosine of negative 0.86. The inverse cosine, negative 0.86. Okay, and we just have to make sure I will specify if I want it in degrees, but let's just make sure that we are in degrees here. And I am. 149.3 degrees. All right, and in this case, it's inverse tangent of 1.8. Whoa. Ugh. Yeah. 60.9 degrees. Okay. All right, here we have another one. So cosecant of theta is 1. All right? And we want it to be in between 0 to 2 pi. So that means find all angles for which cosecant of theta is equal to 1. Okay? What's cosecant like? The inverse. What's cosecant the reciprocal of? Sine. So, what's an angle where sine or cosecant are 1? So at 1, okay, so is sine and cosecant the y value or the x value? Y value. So what I want is a location where I have a high y value. So it's 90 degrees, right? So, but since I want it in 0 to pi, it would have to be that theta is equal to pi over 2. Are there any others? No. So that's it. Now, this was not a very satisfying one. So I'm going to put in another one. So we'll make this A. And let's put in another problem B. And let's do sine of theta is equal to 1/2. Okay? Now, find an angle, the sine of which is 1/2. Okay? Find an angle, the sine of which is 1/2. So she says 30. So look, my angles can face an angle of 1/2 or √3 over 2. Okay, for the 30, 60, 90s. So either 1/2 or √3 over 2. If the sine is 1/2, that means the angle faces the side of 1/2. That means that angle is 30 degrees or pi over 6. Okay, so it's 30 degrees or pi over 6. However, I'm supposed to be finding all the angles for which sine of theta is 1/2. Is there another quadrant where sine is positive? What's another quadrant where sine is positive? Sine is positive here and here. Okay? Now, what would be the equivalent of 30 degrees in the second quadrant? Okay, so either 5 pi over 6 or in degrees, 150 degrees. Okay, let's do another one. C. You can go more, but is there another quadrant until you hit 2 pi where sine is positive? Oh, no. Okay, so how about tangent of theta is -1? Okay? So now, what is an angle, the sine of which is, first of all, +1? For what angle is the tangent +1? Let's just do it that way. 30. How much? 45. Tangent is the y over the x, and only for the 45 degrees do you have the same vertical and horizontal. So it would be 45 degrees. However, I want it to be negative, right? In which two quadrants is tangent negative? The second and the fourth. Okay, so now, what's 45? Well, it has to be between 0 and 2 pi. -45 doesn't fit there. So what's an equivalent of the 45 degree in the second quadrant? 135. Or it's the pi over 4s, right? 3 pi over 4. And what would the radian equivalent be in the fourth quadrant? 7 pi over 4 or 315. Okay? All right. So this homework will be due tomorrow, and we will review tomorrow and the next day.